bring our conversations to a close. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's amazing to see all of you here. Members of the press, thank you for being here as well. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Mike Williams. I have the great honor of serving on the board of directors of the Georgia Tea Party. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. Georgia Tea Party is a group of citizens. That's really the long and short of what we are and what we do. We fulfill the responsibility of being citizens. We hold in great reverence the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the principles that are enshrined in those two documents. We believe that they were beautifully crafted, possibly divinely inspired. The reason that we believe that is the same reasons the founders do, or that they did, is because human nature is something that is unchanging, and it is inherently flawed. Our Constitution was written to bridge that flaw in our nature. The flaw being that if any one of us, even in this room, even me myself, if any of us are given extraordinary power and left unsupervised, left unmonitored, left to our own devices, we will eventually begin to abuse it, to grow accustomed to it. That's just simply a flaw in our nature. The Constitution gives every one of us the ability to do the monitoring, to do the supervising, to observe and watch the people that we elect to represent us, to pass laws that govern our society. It's not only our right to do so, it is our responsibility as citizens. At Georgia Tea At Georgia Tea Party, we fulfill that responsibility. If you would like to fulfill that responsibility in your own life, we'd love to have you join us. If you haven't already, I see many of our people here, and many faces I don't know. That brings us, of course, to the Marietta Declaration. The Marietta Declaration is more than a simple resolution. It's more than a simple document. It's our way of saying that if the rest of our culture will not fulfill that responsibility, if they will not live up to being a citizen, we will. If no one else does, we will. I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Mr. Jim Jess, the author of the Marietta Declaration, to tell you a little bit more about it. Before I do that, though, I want to take a step back and look at some of the other documents that we hold great reverence for. For that, I'd like to introduce my friend, Mr. Field Searcy. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you. I'd like to read a few excerpts from our nation's founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. The Declaration of Independence declared the principles of liberty and self-government. It is our charter of liberty. The Constitution secured these principles by establishing a framework for the structure and powers of both the federal government. We need both. Some 200 years after their writing, they still provide inspiration and direction to us. They should be understood and implemented by our public officials today. The Constitution is what all public officials swear to uphold and defend. First, from the Declaration of Independence, the second paragraph, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness." And a few phrases down from this, "When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security." Having stated our nation's founding principles in the Declaration of Independence, it was not necessary to do so again in the Constitution. What was needed in 1787 and is still needed today is a framework for governing. The preamble to the Constitution stated in clear terms the basic purposes of the federal government, beginning with who was in charge. Think about the size of the font on the Constitution. We the people is the biggest font on the page. It went on to describe the structure and powers of the government it set up. The preamble reads, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Unquote. The Constitution is a contract between the people and the government. Its purpose is to limit the powers of the federal government and keep them in check. If we, the people, don't hold them to the Constitution, they will usurp our rights, and then we become servants of the government. Each citizen has a responsibility to work to secure these blessings of liberty today and for future generations. This is why we, the people, are here today, to restore this contract, to turn our nation from the path of heavy-handed government to the path of liberty and freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Field. My name is Jim Jess, and thank you for coming today. We have no kings or dictators in the United States of America. Our founding fathers who established our Constitution intended the Congress, the legislative branch, to be the dominant branch of the federal government. They intended the president to be a servant of the Congress, not the nanny for the nation. The president is neither our master nor our boss. He should be a humble servant that serves with a servant's heart. The United States Constitution in Article 1 bestows 20 powers upon Congress, the dominant branch of the federal government. In Article 2, the Constitution empowers the president with just 9 areas of responsibility. Number 1, to serve as the chief executive of the government of the United States, to faithfully execute or implement the laws of the nation. Number 2, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Number 3, to serve as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States and of the militia of the states if called into service in the United States. Number 4, to use the power to grant pardons. Number 5, to use the power to make treaties with other nations. But treaties must be ratified by a 2/3 majority of the Senate. Number 6, to use the power to appoint executive branch officials, ambassadors, Supreme Court justices, and other federal judges. But he must have the advice and consent of the Senate to make these appointments. Number 7, to report periodically to Congress on the state of the nation. Number 8, to recommend legislation to Congress. And number 9, to serve as the chief foreign policy maker for the nation. These are all of the powers that the Constitution gives the president. The Constitution does not sanction an imperial presidency. The president has no constitutional authority to impose a policy without congressional action. The president is to execute or implement the laws passed by Congress, not establish new policies himself. You may be thinking, there's no way that Congress can make all the laws necessary for the nation and properly administer all of the current federal activities. You are surely right, and our founding fathers never intended them to do so. Our Constitution bestows on the federal government a limited set of powers. A limited set of powers. The power to do a few things: national defense, foreign policy, administer justice through a few courts at the federal level, establish a uniform system of weights and measures, protect our borders, and generally stay out of our way. Most of the responsibilities of the federal government that they're doing now, most of the responsibilities of all government should be handled at the local and state level. The federal government then would be able to handle its core responsibilities and do them well. You can see that we have our work cut out for us in changing and reordering the responsibilities as they've been assumed in our nation. The Marietta Declaration is just a beginning. Our Constitution begins with the words, "We the people." And once again, we the people are taking action to restore our Constitution. The Marietta Declaration is a proclamation of the American spirit. It is a call to return to our first principles, the principles of individual liberty and limited constitutional government. If we do not restore these principles, our republic will continue its decline and our liberty will be lost. Those of us who sign this document today are making a statement to our fellow citizens. We are stating in no uncertain terms that we will work every day and we will bear the necessary burdens to secure a brighter future for our nation than the one presented by decades of big government activism. We appeal to all like-minded patriots to sign the Marietta Declaration and indicate your support for freedom and limited constitutional government. Nearly 3 years ago, a new movement of citizens was born, the modern Tea Party movement. I was in the crowd at the Georgia Capitol on April 15, 2009, when 12,000 copies of the Constitution were handed out, and people were still asking for more. There is a hunger in America to recapture and return to and relearn our first principles and restore our nation's greatness. And the Georgia Tea Party and other groups in our state and around the nation are educating and mobilizing for the tasks ahead. The Marietta Declaration is but one small step in the process, a struggle which may well occupy our generation and perhaps the next. It will take some time to restore our nation, but today is a great time to start. We are calling on all candidates for President of the United States who are on the ballot in Georgia in the Georgia primary, including the current occupant of the White House, to sign and support the Marietta Declaration. We the people are watching to see who will support the principles of our Constitution and who will abandon it in this critical hour. Join me and join other patriots who are working to restore our Constitution so that government of the people, by the people, and for the people will not perish from the earth.